Hello everybody, Shinjo here and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to discuss anime that deserve to have the Brotherhood treatment. Or for a simpler way of explaining things, anime that deserve a readaptation. I don't know the exact details, but I'm under the assumption that the term Brotherhood treatment was created because of Full Metal Alchemist being readapted into Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Another example of something like this is the recent Fruits Basket readaptation. So in this video, I picked 5 anime that I believe could get a readaptation, a different spin on its story, and see what you guys think. Obviously, before I get into these options, I haven't seen every anime, and at the same time, I'm sure that there are some that deserve readaptations more than others. There are multiple reasons why I chose these 5 anime over other anime. For example, it could be something like a story that could be fleshed out more that could be done with the story in general, and overall, how old it is. But without further ado, let's begin. For these 5 anime, I'm picking ones that are least likely to be readapted first, moving closer to more likely, in my opinion. And unfortunately, the one that I would like to get a readaptation, but most likely won't, is my number 5, Nanbaka. I really liked the Nanbaka show at the start. It was a wacky comedy that didn't really have too many high stakes besides the random moments of background into the characters, but I'm more upset that they ended it on such a cliffhanger. Whether or not that's more parody on the show's part, I personally didn't like how it ended. I don't think it's likely that it'll get a readaptation because of how recent it is compared to other anime on this list. Number 4 is Yu Yu Hakusho. Now, I will say up front, the original Yu Yu Hakusho, I watched it relatively recently, and I really enjoyed it. But if something like Bleach can continue its story, then I don't see why something like Yu Yu Hakusho couldn't as well. Even in the realm of shonen that got readapted, Full Metal Alchemist to Brotherhood got readapted. Granted, it wasn't relatively that far apart between the two shows, but I personally think they could do something with Yu Yu Hakusho where it's a slightly less episode list, so it's still bearable to watch and can still hit the same story beats and even more fleshed out parts of the story that they didn't cover in the original show. But much like Nanbaka, I included it this far down because even though it's old, it's still watchable. So as much as I would love for it to get readapted, I don't think it's likely. These next 3 are where things get interesting because I can make a case for any of them. But at number 3, I put School Rumble. For background, I had a bunch of different ideas for slice of life anime that could be included here. School Rumble was included, Azumanga Daioh, and even Lucky Star. But I decided to go with this one because between those 3 shows, this one has the most semblance of any sort of plot. Lucky Star is quite literally slice of life, and as much as I would love a readaptation of Azumanga Daioh, the original is still watchable. But School Rumble is a show where there's a lot of episodes, but realistically not much happens. And I think that an idea where they readapt this, like they did Fruits Basket, another romance, they could do something where they have fresh jokes or even delve into characters they didn't get to learn about in the original show. And quite frankly, it's 50 plus episodes for the original run. I think you could easily tone that down to 30 or 40 episodes. There's a lot of the show where it's just filler that doesn't really accomplish much of anything besides different character interactions. Or you could even end it with a conclusive ending, unlike the original. For these last 2, I could make a case for either one getting readapted over the other. But at the moment, my number 2 is Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple. Again, another sort of shonen anime like Yu Yu Hakusho, but it's weird that I put this higher since it is not as old as Yu Yu Hakusho, but in my opinion, it's definitely more underground compared to Hakusho. I legitimately like the story of the show, the characters are fun, but the show, while it had a relatively good ending, I feel like there's more that can be done with the story that wasn't originally adapted. A common thing with anime is that they don't adapt everything from the manga either because it wasn't caught up or it was still going. So I feel something like this could get readapted, and it could either be something where they adapt things that weren't present in the original or dive into characters' backgrounds, because at the end of the day, it was all focused solely on the protagonist, which isn't a bad thing, but you could delve into some of the trainers' backgrounds and learn more about them. But the one I chose for number 1, and I don't think it's too unpopular of an opinion, is Soul Eater. I like Soul Eater. It definitely has that vibe of being an early anime with all the tropes that it has. But at its core, the characters are really fun and interesting. But what really holds it back, in my opinion, is how the anime ended. It was a fine way that they were going about it in the last dozen or so episodes, but I still can't get over that the end of the show was Maka just saying, "I'm not scared," and just punches the bad guy. That still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I didn't necessarily fact check this, but I wouldn't imagine they would have ended the manga like this. So I feel like having a true ending compared to what the anime was is something that needs to happen. And among the 5 that I discussed here, this one I think is the most likely. But there are the 5 anime, and like I said at the top of the video, there are a lot of anime that I haven't even watched or don't think deserve a sequel compared to these other ones. And I tried to steer clear of things that are relatively recent. I think between the 5 that were here, Nanbaka might be the most recent one, and that's probably still close to 10 years old. But let me know what you think. If you think there are other anime that deserve readaptation like these ones, let me know down below. And if there's enough, I could do a part 2 to this. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Momentai.